Ready? Good evening, everybody. We'll bring this regular council meeting to order for February 23rd. So, Corporate Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of 3 sets of minutes. Committee of the Whole, Tuesday, February 10th, regular council, Tuesday, February 10th, and a special council meeting, Tuesday, February 17th. And these can be adopted as
Okay,
one.
thank you.
One motion.
Okay, Council, are there any errors or omissions? Nobody found any mistakes anywhere? Good. Hearing none, I'd like a motion for to move the recommendation, please. Councillor Peak, Councillor Holmes. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Not tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So, gee, we're going to go right on to delegations. From first one's Barbara Thorburn, who doesn't like our light system. Yeah, we have started that this evening. Nobody's dared to try to do it before, so we're going to. It's a green, yellow, red. And,
yes, for delegations, 5 minutes. So the green light at the beginning of the delegation will go on. When there's 1 minute left, the yellow light will come on, and then the red light when you're finished.
And Barbara's already informed me she's going to ignore it. But then the CIO offered to generously give you his time since he doesn't have a report tonight.
Thank you.
So there you go. And he usually has just under 15 seconds.
How generous.
So
We are a committee of council.
I don't know if your mic's on,
Oh,
Barbara.
it's a blue light.
So
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Mayor Waterman and councillors, I'd like to thank you for giving me and us the opportunity to speak to you about the Cultural Advocacy Committee, CCAC. I'm Barbara Thorburn. I'm the current chair of the committee, and with me is Gord Thorne, who is the vice chair of the committee. So the purpose of this presentation, and because that some of the councillors are new and aren't really aware of the background to a cultural committee under the municipality, I wanted to give you a little bit of background. Also a bit of an overview of culture from a community perspective, the role of CCDC, which was the predecessor to CCAC, and a little bit about CCAC, and then finishing up with our recommendation that we have a task force for Summerland's cultural plan. So there's some confusion and some dispute about what culture is. It is a complex concept, and it includes the arts, but not just the arts, cultural events, heritage, businesses and organizations that contribute to cultural context of the community. And according to Gord Hume, culture includes the underpinnings of all the activities that we define as creative. A lot of municipalities also use in their definitions terms such as shared beliefs, values, customs. It's the glue that connects our past to our future, and other terms like that. So it's quite an inclusive concept. Many municipalities now are including culture as one of the 4 pillars of sustainable community, and they put culture on equal footing with economic prosperity, environmental responsibility, and social well-being. So you can see that culture fits right as one of the 4 pillars, equal to the other 3. You won't be able to read this very well, but this diagram indicates how culture links and integrates with the other 3 pillars. And this integration drives sustainability, highlights opportunities, and it reduces the silo thinking. It also contributes to a vibrant and healthy community. So if you link and integrate culture into all your planning in the community, it'll be a very big bonus for your community. So the role of the CCDC, which is the predecessor to CCAC, was a little different than the role of the CCAC now. It was established over a dozen years ago, and what we did in that committee, or what members in that committee did, was look for things that they felt needed to be done, gaps in our cultural community, and then initiated projects, and then implemented them. So it was very project-oriented. So as you can see, CCDC's accomplishment ties into the 4 pillars. We worked on banners and murals, which use art to celebrate our past. And there's Packing House, the Horseshoe Club, Peach Orchard Park. We also worked on environmental issues like the Summerland Marsh and Kins Park, which shows that environmental projects enhance the physical beauty and the sustainability of our environment, and also enhance the cultural community as well. Another initiative of the CCDC were the Summerland Philosophers Cafes. They've been going since 2010, and they're become sort of ingrained into our cultural community here in Summerland. We've had a wide range of topics, and we usually use speakers from our community because we have so many experts and people who are passionate about their particular interests, and they make great moderators for our Philosophers Cafes. Oh, there's Linda. We also have organized 4 conversation cafes, and they've also been very successful, and this was all an initiative of CCDC. The conversation cafes focused on what Summerland means to us in various ways, and they promote a very healthy conversation, very healthy dialogue. Another initiative of CCDC is the Earth Week. Again, it was started in 2010. We partnered with many other organizations in the community, which is another example of how the 4 pillars concept works, because we partnered with the chamber, with business, with other organizations like the Museum, Arts Council, of course, and had a variety of activities for all ages, environmental movies, Green Business Expo, 1 Foot gardening workshops, thanks, Tony, and storytelling and imagination station. We also had the youth involved by working on projects with recycled material, and we had home renovation workshops as well. So this was all organized through the CCDC. I'd like to acknowledge just quickly the contributions of Margaret Haller, who can't be here tonight because she's in Palm Springs, but she's a big mover and groover behind all of these initiatives, and without her, I don't think any of them would have been so successful. So I just talked to her this morning. I told her I'd acknowledge her, not that I had to, but so the CCDC has collaborated with so many different organizations in our community to kind of build a healthy environment and healthy relationships between those organizations. However, in 2013, the CCDC was disbanded, and new terms were drawn up, and a new committee was formed with terms which end apparently as of March the 1st. We had our first meeting in September of 2014. The reason why I think the CCDC was disbanded was our CAO at the time wanted to review the committees and come up with new terms of reference. So the thing that we tried to grapple with for quite a while in our first few meetings was like how to interpret our terms of reference, how do we advocate for cultural improvement, how do we liaise, how do we prepare for an annual cultural activities program. We really struggled with that in terms of sort of who are we and how do we advocate. And we felt, I believe I can speak on behalf of some of the committee members, or maybe all of them, we felt like we weren't grounded. And so what we went to was the 4th of our terms of reference, which was assist in the development of and future maintenance of a community cultural plan. And this was in the new terms, and also it was in the terms of our 2003 CCDC to develop a cultural plan. So it has been on the books for over a decade, and we think now is the time to take that step. And we feel that it will give us an opportunity to plan for the future, to guide a cultural advocacy or development committee, gives them a foundation for moving forward in our community. So the recommendation you have before you, and essentially it reads that the Summerland Council strike a task force with the purpose of developing a Summerland community cultural plan. There's some more information in your handout, but that's essentially what it is. We have discussed this in our committee, and we feel it should be community-led and engage the community as widely as possible. There are already documents that this task force could use to draw on, and part of the task would be to review the current CCAC terms of reference, make sure that they're really relevant and really what our community needs in order to move forward with a cultural plan. We also need volunteer members that are willing to work, because it is a task force, so there will be work to do, and they must demonstrate a working knowledge of Summerland's cultural community. So we're excited about this step, and we believe that the municipality has had this in principle agreement that they want to go ahead with a cultural plan, and this would be the way that we recommend that it go forward. The important thing, too, is that there needs to be adequate funding for this. We want it to be really successful, and we're hoping to have speakers such as Gord Hume, who most people in our committee have read his books, and Ian really liked it too. And he's got this cultural planning for creative communities. He's from Ontario. He works with municipalities. He understands. He's been on council himself as an elected official in Ontario, and we think he would be the perfect person to come and get us motivated and help us just break down the tasks that we would have to do. We would also like to have some funding to cover special events, open houses, mail-outs, advertising, and the administrative duties that go with creating a really good cultural plan for our community. I didn't see a red light.
Gee, it just
Anyway.
turned red, yeah.
Thank you. So,
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. Are there any questions from council, please? Councillor Peak?
Barbara, I've come to the committee, but I'm new to the committee. For a task force, then, you want the people of the community to actually gather the facts and write the community plan that'll then be the cultural plan?
that's the idea. We would get people from the community to get together. It would be a community-led task force. We would consult with members of the community organizations. We would have people come in. It would be an interactive kind of process. And there are lots of models out there. It's not like, it's not like there's not some good models that we could use, but most of the development of a cultural plan is about the process. So the process is really important to get members of the community to see the value of it and to participate and contribute to it. And then you end up with an end product, and then that would then be our guideline for the future.
I think it sounds really, really good to have the community involved in creating its own plan, not somebody coming in.
We have
and
incredibly talented
superimposing it.
people in this community. It's just amazing, as you know. So I think we've got enough skills and expertise.
Thank you. I do too.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Barbara.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to mention is that we've just had our first strategic planning session last week. Was it Wednesday? Wednesday. And in that strategic plan, as we're moving along, we are making the 4-pillar model as our approach to the strategic plan. So it will be right up there with the others, and we're looking at how we can structure things to to fit everything towards that particular pillar where it's useful. So I think one thing that you brought up was funding, so I'd like to ask our CFO, what have we got in our discretionary budget that we're looking at for this year?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have an item in our plan that is got a $15,000 component for the task force for the cultural committee, and it is also combined with our recreation master plan, which has a $70,000 component. So we'll see it as a line item for $85,000 in our list.
Okay, thank you. I think for the audience, I've been in discussions with Barbara a number of times, and the point of this task force is to have it driven by community members that are fully involved with the arts community. And I think that makes it very relevant. And the way we saw things was that Barbara would draw from people in the community, and then the present committee would sort of be in a dormant position, so to speak, because you're going to have to bring people that are particularly involved in the community and the arts sector to put this plan together. And then from that, you're probably going to grow a new CCAC from that cultural plan, is the way I see it. And I think we're pretty much of the same mind on that. So now we have the recommendation in front of us, and corporate officer, is it in line for us to move that?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor. Would you
Okay.
like me to read
Yes.
it out?
Do you want to read it, please? Thank you.
That council support the initiatives of the Community Cultural Advocacy Committee, and that Summerland Council strike a task force with the purpose of developing a community cultural plan for Summerland.
Okay, can have a mover of that, please? Thank you. Councillor Boot, Councillor Holmes. Are there any questions or discussion at this point? Boy, these things are going to race along tonight. You sure? Okay, go ahead.
Say something, right?
No?
I'd just like to say I love the fact that we are looking at a cultural plan as a community rather than, as Councillor Peak was saying, having someone come in from the outside and kind of guide us, oversee it. I really think it's important for the community to be involved in such a critical piece of our development as we move forward. So thank you for that.
One other thing that I think is important for the public to understand, that initially we were looking at sort of a recreation cultural plan together, more or less. And I think we realized it was very important for this cultural plan to be developed on its own, and then it will mesh at some point with the recreation plan as things move along. But it was important for the group of people that were operating and coming up with a cultural plan that the people that are involved there use their own expertise to come up with a plan, and then it'll be teased with the rec master plan, and ultimately probably the way the funding will work, there will be some association with the recreation department. So with that, have the vote, please. All in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried. Should be very happy.
Are you chairing the task force?
She doesn't have much choice.
She's ready.
We'll nominate her.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Barbara. So we're moving on to the delegations from Interior Health. Ms. Motlick.
So good evening. Thank you, Mayor Waterman, and to councillors. I'm just going to bring you an update from Interior Health. And I might need a lesson. Oh, probably just shut it off. Ah. So for South Okanagan Similkameen, you see above you key contacts. And myself, I'm always open to ideas, particularly local ideas, and having grassroots input. So don't hesitate to give me a shout. The first thing I want to bring a bit of an update. I'm very excited to share with you today some of the details of the future of the patient care tower. It's at Penticton Regional Hospital, but it is our regional hospital for South Okanagan Similkameen. And as you can see, it's a very large facility. It'll be 3 times the size of the South Okanagan Event Center. Has a budget of $325 million. So a big project. Our funding partners are $122 million from the Okanagan Similkameen Regional Hospital District, as well as $20 million from the South Okanagan Similkameen Foundation. And I certainly want to thank our partners for their work and contributions towards this project. We're very excited. Some of the details is certainly there's going to be medical surgical inpatient units, so 84 beds. 15 of them will be sort of net new. But more importantly, these beds will be private rooms, and we know that rest is key and critical to recovery. So the ability to have a private room for your family to stay with you, or a loved one to stay with you if need be. And if you have visitors, I think many of us have been in the hospital and recognize that, you know, you're always worried that you're going to be too loud for the neighbor. Or vice versa, you are the neighbor and you're worried that the visitors are going to be too loud. So to have these private rooms is really seen as visionary and positive. We're also excited about new OR suites. Anybody who has had a chance to come in, we are just like in the movies. 1950 vintage inside the OR, those blue or those gray tile that you see. I think ether as far as anesthesia. So we provide great care, but we're certainly looking for an upgraded facility that's going to allow us to have state-of-the-art technology. Certainly ambulatory care facilities. One of the huge things that's been helpful in recruiting talented individuals to our healthcare system is the connection with the teaching schools, and to be able to teach and bring young people here. They find love and a wonderful place to live, and they elect to stay. Once phase 1 is done and everybody's moved into the tower, then we will renovate the vacated space for a new emerge, which will be 4 times the size of the existing space. As well as pharmacy and a new medical reprocessing device. Timelines, where are we at? We're right on 2015. We have selected 3 preferred proponents, and our user groups and frontline staff are actually about to meet with each of these proponents. These companies will identify what they can envision for design, and then at the end of the year or through the year, we will choose our preferred proponent and begin very aggressively working with detailed design. We expect to have shovel in the ground early next year and completion 2019. So very excited about that project. I just want to bring up just a high level around the refreshed Ministry of Health strategy. Key components in order to meet our population's need is to stay healthy, getting better, living with illness and disability, and coping with end of life. So while the new tower is exciting and welcomed, one of the things that the government's really looking at is moving from reactive to proactive, and to reduce the need for high-cost hospital and residential care services. So we're excited, we're pleased with the strategy of supporting people at risk and helping even before chronic conditions occur. Last year, I spoke about a number of programs: Be Well, Home First, surveillance nurses. 3 out of 4 of our patients over the age of 65 struggle with chronic conditions, and 1 out of 4 of those people actually have more than 3 chronic conditions or lifelong diseases that they manage. Breathe Well supports people with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's a 10-week program for clients, physicians and therapists, to develop an intensive at-home program. And certainly we've seen 100% of these patients recommend. Home First is, again, provides extra support to frail seniors with complex health issues. And we've avoided 24,000 residential care days over the last year with this program. And patients with mental health and substance abuse have as well a very intensive program to manage their complex health needs and reduce the impact on acute care. Surveillance nurses will call people at home on a regular basis and answer their questions. The patients are also able to call them. And so from a distance, we support them. Lastly, other successes that we've had is over the last 18 months, we've recruited 23 specialists to Penticton. So we still are recruiting family physicians, and I think we've had issues where people have identified that need is still a gap there, and Divisions has a plan. And we're also in the process of building a medical student house to have students come and stay and have residency. Just following me is Betty and Betty Brown, and I just want to refer back to the refreshed Ministry of Health strategy, and her link is staying healthy and looking at prevention and health. So just so that you have a sense of how that we tie together, that's it. Any questions?
Question?
How come your red light doesn't work?
It works. Well, it does, but I refuse to push the button.
The eject button?
If I push the button, you'd be sitting out in the front steps. No, no, that's not true. I guess my question is, I've always been interested in prevention measures, and so what's going to be this, I see your strategy here, refresh strategy, and staying healthy is one of your first priorities across the top. So how expansive do you see that being in terms of how are you going to address that in the community?
So one of the things, I think I'll let Betty Brown speak to that,
Sure.
because that's really the piece that she brings to the table. So maybe I'll
Okay.
leave that for her.
Any other questions for Ms. Motley? Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Councillor Peak.
I like the idea it's going to be a teaching hospital. How many residents are you going to be able to sponsor during the program?
So we've taught for a long time. And historically, we've brought residents from, international residents. And actually having housing for them has been a real draw. So that is something that's gone on for probably 30 years or more.
Will this enhance it? Will you have
It
more available?
will enhance it.
So
Right now, we
numbers-wise.
have residents that are attached to almost every one of our specialty, and that's really been augmented over the last 10 years. And in September, we are formally part of the family medicine program, which is, really important because that's a gap for all of our areas in South Okanagan. So we're excited about partnering with that, and that'll be formalized part of UBCO.
Excellent.
Just before you escape for Betty Brown to take over, you say, it sounds impressive that you've attracted 23 specialists, but how many were you trying to attract?
We were trying to attract 23. 18 months ago, we had a gap of 23 specialists, which sounds huge, and
yeah.
it has been. So we've been successful in recruiting anesthesiologists, psychiatrists, surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, internal medicine. The list goes on.
So were those actual gaps, or is this an expansion of service in terms of the specialists that you wanted to have there?
With the exception of probably 2 positions, it was a gap. We
I see.
actually had that many holes.
So those gaps were created through retirements or people leaving or moving to other?
Primarily retirements,
Okay.
but there was, just turnover and movement as well.
I see, okay. Yes, Councillor Trainer.
I just have a quick question. What's your catchment area for the hospital?
Catchment area goes from Rock Creek, the border, Princeton, and just shy of Peachland.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura.
Ms. Brown?
Great.
So, my question first.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
So, yeah, well, introduce yourself first.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Mayor Waterman and Council, it's a pleasure to have a chance to speak to you today. I represent IH's Healthy Communities Initiative, one of a small team that addresses our overall health and wellness to respond to the question that you posed.
I guess my question there was, to what extent do you see that moving ahead? I mean, you're already participating in that area now, I assume. To what extent will it be enhanced or grow in terms of being one of your strong pillars of your
I
strategy?
can tell you the state of our department, and that's actually my first couple of
There you go.
slides. I think it'll answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not a big number, so that
Okay.
but it's an important reason why it's not. So I do represent the Interior Health Healthy Communities Initiative. Our team is a whopping 4 members, and we work with 58 local governments in the interior region. And it's the whole focus of the Healthy Communities Initiative is to look at population level health and wellness through policy change and environmental conditions that enable every member of the community to be healthy. We have designed our communities basically to enable us to use our cars but not our feet. We don't have access to healthy food. There's not always safe places for people to walk or play. And so that is the initiative and the focus of our program. The next slide really explains why we do the work the way we do. So 4 healthy community facilitators work with local government partners and key stakeholders. And here's a slide that explains why. Of studies that have been done, only 25% of the effect on health outcomes is actually the responsibility of the health care system, or what I call the sickness care system. So if we're successful, sorry Laurie, if we're successful in our work, nobody would be going to that shiny new hospital. I mean, we know that's a real idealistic situation, but that's kind of what we're trying to do. We want to enable communities to be so healthy, so strong, that there are excellent ways for children early to eat well, to exercise well. Everybody can have safe routes to school, eat healthy food. That there's a culture change that's required. So of the full range of effects on health outcomes, the sickness care system is assessed as about 25%. Our own genetic code is around 15%, like we're predisposed for certain things, we know that. About 10% of the effect of health is on the built environment, what we call the healthy built environment, and you have lots of them. Linear parks, trail networks, curb cuts that enable people that need to wheel to be able to go down the sidewalk safely, grid and concrete grid patterns and condensed communities to enable walking. Those are all things that are enabling health in the built environment sector, but chief among all of those sectors are the full 50% of effects on health that relate to our social and economic condition. And that, many of you have heard the term, the social determinants of health. There's roughly a dozen of those. Chief among them is the income. Every rung up the income ladder that people ascend, their health improves. There's a very strong correlation to that. Education, the ability to have a good job, literacy, healthy eating, there's a number of food security and access to food are some of the components of the social determinants of health. So as a result, our Healthy Communities team works with the partners that can affect the social determinants of health. So here's just what I call the convincer slide. This is a slide taken of people just up the road, members of the cadet camp in 1954, and frankly, to me, they look like they're almost coming out of a prisoner of war camp. They're very lean, very fit. And the body type increased a wee bit by 1990. I think that's 1980. Thank you. Okay. And then in 2007, these are actual photographs. And, you know, a picture tells us a lot. We know, sadly, that in Canada, it varies from community to community, that about 1 in 4 of our kids are obese. And the other thing we know is that our medical health officers are predicting that the next generation will likely not live as long as we will, right? These are not necessarily new. So here's another factor, just simplistic based on time. Roughly, depending on whose measures we use, 47 to 52 cents on our tax dollars go to take care of us when we're sick. In comparison, it's my understanding something like 8 cents on the dollar comes to local government. And the Healthy Communities Initiative takes a long-term look at strong culture change and changing conditions in the community context to continue to promote health and wellness, to change and bend that cost curve, because we know that as our population, that baby boomer bulge is almost at that level where we're going to be really, really high consumers of our healthcare services. So that's just a little example. This is one of many indicators, but the red bars in the middle represent the prevalence rates for anxiety and depression for adults. Each bar is a local health area in interior health. All of those colored red are from the South Okanagan, this Okanagan-Similkameen region, and Summerland is the far right. So in this particular case, you're above, as you were, I think, for all of them, above both the interior health and the provincial average for depression and anxiety rates. Often those rates are associated with social conditions or economic conditions. So why I'm here today, I had the pleasure about 2 years ago presenting to the former council. I know Mayor Waterman was a councillor at that time, and my request at that point was inviting council to partner with Interior Health for the long term to improve the health of the community, and with the Okanagan-Similkameen Healthy Living Coalition as a means of implementing that partnership. The coalition, I don't have time to go into it, but it's basically a 6-municipality, 2-school district interior health group that is working together to advance and promote health regionally. So the council of the day happily agreed to partner with us. As I describe that partnership, I always quip, it's not a legally binding agreement. It's more like, you know, we're agreeing to go steady and work together for the long term. And so there was an agreement to do that. In fact, there was even a very positive news clip article that quoted now Mayor Waterman welcoming this opportunity, acknowledging by the former councillor that there was already a lot of excellent work going on, which I'd be remiss if I didn't mention and note. This community does a lot to promote health and wellness. Everything about our Healthy Communities Initiative is asset-based. We look at what's already there and work to continue to improve it and change the culture, so almost that it's socially unacceptable to not be practicing health. So what we've done here, my role in Summerland was primarily with Mayor Perino, and she and I worked, I will say tirelessly, trying to find a local person who would work with us to take action and move forward. We even had a small mini grant that we were unable to give away to Summerland at the time. We had a series of leaders, we had a community meeting, and then our leader moved, she got a job in another community. So I'm here today to tell you good news. I have joining me 4, can't count right. Put up your hand, ladies. 4 women. Hey, I'm a health worker, not a mathematician. these are absolutely amazing women. 2 of them work with Interior Health, one regionally, one locally, as well as our school district health promoting schools coordinator and a local resident. All of them reside in Summerland and have said, yeah, I'd like to be part of something that is going to go on in Summerland to work together to figure out what we are going to do to advance health and wellness. And I'm delighted that they're here. They've already been talking and planning a possible Philosopher's Cafe presentation or some way of engaging the community, exactly as the councillor mentioned earlier. It's got to be with the community, not for the community, together figuring out what makes sense. And so what is really critical is, and has been missing, is participation from council. We would love to have somebody from council to join this group to help plan and work together and determine what would be the next step or steps for a healthier Summerland. And with the view long term that there will be no quick fixes, but without attention being given to look at why these this costs continue to go up, how are we going to change that cost curve and enable the children of the next generation to live healthier, better lives? That's really the big vision. I just want to reiterate we're kind of between staff with the Healthy Living Coalition, but I want to reiterate the absolute critical nature of the Healthy Communities Coalition, or Healthy Living Coalition, to collaborate with Interior Health. My role, for example, I'm presently working with 13 local governments, and so that's not really possible for me to work actively with each one, but I act as a catalyst, and then having a regional person from the coalition to add value and connect dots regionally with other communities up and down the Okanagan and on the Similkameen corridor is a really critical role. So that's just my little plug for the coalition and the good work that they've been doing. Oh, there's me. Oh yes, I had something to mention about that. The last thing that my position has to offer is I'm conveniently co-located now on UBC's Okanagan campus. And one of the value adds of doing my interior health job at UBC is to be able to leverage expertise from campus for Healthy Communities work. And that will take the form, and has and is taking the form, of student experiential learning teams being assigned to projects and what they call community-based action research partnerships with communities. Right now we have one in the South Okanagan, there's another one in the Similkameen. Oliver's had a couple of fourth-year student teams working on a food security action plan, etc. So that's another benefit of kind of the link that I can offer. But it's really engaging with the local partners to figure out what they want to do together. So that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you
And
very much.
Are there any questions?
Any questions from council? Councillor Barkwell.
This is probably beyond the scope of what you're doing, but do people in your field,
Do you want to bring your mic up?
oh, sorry. Do people in your field advocate for a tax on chocolate bars and chips and soft drinks and things?
Oh, I mean, not me personally. I mean, there is a role for advocacy. What we're doing here in Summerland at this point is not about that. But I know, for example, the Heart and Stroke Foundation, some of the disease charities have very strong advocacy work underway for those kinds of sort of national policies around access to, like, what's the classic one? The size of soft drinks. When we were young, little blue Coke bottles, remember? I don't know how many ounces they were. Now you can get, like, you need a carrying case for a gallon of soda for like 79 cents, right? So there is a role for advocacy. Sometimes it can be local advocacy, but typically it's more nationally. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but certainly we are aware of those, and we send out information about advocacy. I have another coalition that is primarily in place in the Shuswap to do advocacy work. So they will be engaged more in that kind of approach. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll have no problem from somebody from this group to
Excellent.
participate with you. If they don't, then,
We get you?
well, yeah, but I'm not too sure your crew can meet the schedule. We'll be meeting every morning at 8 at the rec center.
Oh, that would be
And,
awesome.
so
It's
that-
really critical. I mean, I think I failed to mention that the local government is you have the ability to affect the environment for
Well-
people, where the health authority really doesn't. So we work with you, and to have one of you working with this amazing group that is beginning to assemble would be an honor. It would be
Well,
fantastic.
I think you probably heard a little earlier when we were discussing things with Ms. Thorburn that, you know, we looking at the 4 pillars, so to speak.
Yeah.
And of course that, as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's health and wellness is definitely part of that, includes recreation, but it also includes a whole raft of opportunities or activities that all kinds of different people participate in, and I'm actually including things like crossword in there.
Yep.
You know, looking at exercising the mind to offset dementia and so on. You know, I'm afraid I can't do crosswords very well, but I work at other areas. But thanks. But you know, that's
Absolutely.
I
Many of
think
the
in-
commissions you already have in your council setup, recreation, parks, climate action, the cultural group, there's lots of overlaps, but we do need this intentional application of a health lens into all the planning and work that's underway.
Well, that'll be taking place. Further to that, though, we're looking at, you know, down the road, and this is where money comes into it, but looking at pathways and so on that'll be available to all parts of the community in terms of making their way through the core and so on. So, but I think
That's
Councillor Traynor
outstanding.
had a question.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very interesting, and I would be willing to work with you guys for sure. I'm sure we'll probably discuss who else wants to, but
You'll have to fight over it, I'm sure.
I'm very excited. This stuff is really important to me, and it's something that it's right up my alley. So I would love to help you
Great.
and do whatever I can.
Has that been minuted?
She
That's
d-
fantastic.
she
I
drew the
taught
short
Lori's
straw.
husband a spin class right before this
Oh.
council session.
Love it. They're great.
And Lori's in my
Good
class
work.
too.
Good work, Lori.
So if there are no more questions, I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation. And certainly, the 2 areas that we've entertained tonight are definitely a strong focus of this council, and we'll be moving towards that as we can. So thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
Betty.
Thank you. So with that, I guess we move into my report for this evening. No, public comment, sorry. That's right, how could I forget that? As many of you know, we've now passed the procedural changes for council, and the first phase of this is coming into play tonight, where there's opportunity for the public to comment on items on the agenda that don't already have a component involving public comment. So for tonight, those opportunities are for item 9.1, 10.1, and 12.1. So if there's anybody from the public who would like to address either of those 3, then please do so. You will have 2 minutes to address the particular item, and we'll just take the comments under advisement or refer to our CAO for the appropriate staff person. And in addition to that, if there's any item that, you know, really needs more attention, perhaps a delegation coming forward from that particular individual's group that they may represent, or perhaps an agenda item down the road, then that's the way that can be dealt with. So are there any members of the public that would like to address either of those 3 items tonight? We have, you know, if we don't have anybody speak, then we'll just move ahead. But yes, sir. You come to the podium, please, and give us your name and address, and move ahead.
It's Jonathan Austin with McElhinney Consulting, and I was going to speak to item 9.1.
Okay.
If that's all right.
Now, I guess just a quick reference to our planner. Is there an opportunity during that particular item? They're really.
I think it would be more appropriate, Mr. Mayor, if the delegate, or this comment was, when that item was being discussed, would probably make more sense to council, I would think.
Okay, so we can offer that. Okay, you might need more time anyway, so.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, if nobody's going to come forward, then I'll proceed with the.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Councillor Holmes.
Just from an administrative point of view here, would it make sense to have that item further down on the agenda going forward? So once people have heard the whole council meeting, they can comment on something they've heard?
No,
No?
the rationale, because of the timing on, the rationale is actually important, because there's been situations in the past where particular items were dealt with, and in this case, this gentleman was prepared to speak to the particular item anyway, but as a developer, I guess, as part of that. But there's frequently in the past, an item might be discussed by council, the vote might be taken, and then it's basically finished with as an item, and then at the very end of the council meeting, somebody might like to say something, but I fail to see the point of that when the motion's already been voted on and dealt with. So what's the point in bringing up additional information or objecting or whatever to the particular item? So that's why it's early on the agenda. There's also time at the end, as we know, to bring things forward. It could be any item at all that's not necessarily on the agenda, but something that an individual wants to bring forward for council's consideration, some perhaps even a problem that needs to be referred to staff. So it doesn't have to be a agenda item. It could be just about anything that involves governance and that would involve this council. So any other comments? Yes?
Have a comment about item 10.1.
Okay.
I did rush through my presentation and tried to keep it to 5 minutes, so I think I didn't talk about the actual financial requirement. And this is not really a question, but just something for you to think about. When you think about $15,000 compared to $70,000, going $15,000 for a cultural plan, which, you know, I know we're going to try to do it economically because we're going to do it from a grassroots community point of view. But if you think in terms of the four-pillar concept and trying to elevate culture as to being a very important part of our community, and then saying it's worth $15,000, whereas a recreation plan is $70,000, you kind of wonder about, in reality, the importance that you are giving towards this project. So I'm not really saying that we might need more money. I'm just saying it's an interesting way of thinking when you think about the amount of money that always goes to recreation in relationship to the money that goes to arts and culture. It's a huge discrepancy.
I understand what you're saying, and I think the point's well taken.
Thank you.
And but I think we both know that it was suggested that it could be done for a very small amount of money this year in terms of what the requirements were, because there were no professionals being brought in as a consultant. If a consultant firm was brought in, we'd have to commit more money. And in this manner, unless each one of the members of the task force wants to charge fees for this,
Right.
then we wouldn't try and address it with more
it does
money.
restrict it. We do, you know, we are having a speaker coming
Yeah.
from Ontario. We may want that person to come back. We may want to have other people come and speak to our group, because we will have to draw on expertise
I
as
think
well.
what
So-
you'll see, and I don't want to belabor this, but I think as a start with the task force, the suggestions that come from your cultural plan will be addressed through budget items that are necessary as we go forward
Okay.
into the next budget year.
Sounds good.
So don't think that just because of that number right now doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
mean that that's the case. As a matter of fact, in terms of cultural activities, you'll see in our discretionary items that we are putting forward, I think it's close to $30,000 to secure stability for the Arts Council for this particular season. And again, that's a beginning in terms of trying to create a stable situation for the Arts Council. So that's a touche point there.
Right, and
Okay.
I'll touche back to you. Culture is not just art, right?
I
So
realize that,
it is a huge part of our community, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
I just like to add that I sort of see this task force approach to doing a culture plan as a bit of an experiment for us as well, to see if there is a more efficient way of developing these kind of plans throughout the community. And if it works the way we anticipate it, hope it'll work, then we can maybe replicate that model to when we go to do other kind of plans as well. Because I think this is a much better way of moving forward for not just for culture but for everything that we do.
Councillor Barkwell. Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, it appears to me we're looking at the $15,000 from the general revenue fund compared to the $70,000 from other sources on the line item for culture and recreation.
I was just saying, like, 15 goes to culture, 70 goes to recreation. I wasn't saying that we couldn't do it with that. I'm just saying we have to
Okay, now-
possibly change our thinking.
I haven't seen any specific budget numbers for those, that particular project, which, sounds like we're breaking into two. But Laurie, correct me if I'm wrong, those are just
Yeah.
the sources, not the expenses that we're going, the expenditures, correct?
In this case, they're the one and the same. So we did have originally $40,000 as a line item for the cultural plan, but by taking this task force approach, the amount was reduced based on their recommendation that they felt they could do it for a lower amount.
So
We
that-
never really actually presented an amount
I think-
that I know of.
Yeah, I think
Wasn't
probably-
discussed in our
yeah.
committee, but that's okay.
Yeah.
My point isn't about the actual amount.
Oh, I
It's about
understand.
the
Yeah.
thinking behind it. Thank you.
I think what you'll find, and I think we've made a considerable commitment in thought as well as with our strategic plan, that you will be quite pleased as we move along. So the emphasis from this council is going to be strong in the direction that you're talking about. But we're taking these small steps, and I think Laurie's quite correct in the way that she approached it this year. CAO, did you have a comment, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a fairly significant difference with the Parks and Recreation approach and plan is that it looks at all the existing facilities, of which we have, multi-million-dollar facilities and needs. And so it's important to take a look at the arena, the swimming pool, and to do assessment of those facilities. That does take more money, and it does take outside experts. Secondly, we look at all the parkland in the municipality and try to determine future needs in parkland, which is, again, a fairly complex exercise. So they are two different approaches, but I would definitely agree not having a professional consultant is going to reduce your costs. We've also left some money in for the Parks and Recreation side to help integrate the two plans and to provide some assistance on the writing side if there's a need for that sort of planning. So it's really not comparing apples to apples, but I do agree that absolutely, if you're not bringing in you have local professionals and community people, you're gonna save money. But there is the issue of our infrastructure and its particular needs.
I think, Councillor Holmes, I'll get to Councillor Peak in a minute. I think Councillor Holmes put it very well, that, and as you've stated, Barbara, that we have a wealth of expertise in the community. It isn't just in arts and culture. There's a whole bunch of people in this town that have got tremendous depth and expertise, and I think we're going to be drawing on that for a number of opportunities down the road, because I think we've had some pretty good evidence that some of the consultants we've had in the past have not been relevant for Summerland. So we want to take a different tact. And I think Councillor Peak, and then we'll move on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I want to say that coming from sitting at this table, I recognize the great value of what our culture is, because culture is really us. And when our CAO says that we'll look at integrating and writing, helping to write it, I would prefer that the cultural plan be something different than the recreational plan. I don't really want to see it integrated. I think there's a greater value to profile it in a different way in our community, and I'm hoping that will be possible. So that would be the hope of when we get to the point where we're writing it, that it's written as a standalone plan, not something that sits under recreation.
I think to respond to Councillor Peak's comments, that was the intent, and that's why the task force is driven the way it is, and that's why we chose to go that route instead of a consultant. Because even though they may be blended at some point, in a sense, they're going to be standalone items in a sense that we'll recognize that there is indeed a separate cultural plan.
Thank you, Mr.
But we
Mayor.
may be speaking of them more or less in tandem when we look at budget and so on. So corporate officer, where are we at? The CAO's report.
No, next, Mr. Mayor, is your report
Oh,
first.
right. I guess I spoke so much that I figured I'd already done it. Okay, this evening, I just want to emphasize something that we've already been sort of in the middle of, but this particular council meeting is somewhat of a milestone. Each new council has aspirations for meeting public need, for accountability, and for transparency. This council is making some significant changes for open dialogue. We decided to meld the Monday morning committee of the whole with our evening meeting to bring full discussion and questions for better public understanding. In addition, we've provided for public input in our 15-minute period early in the meeting, which you've just been a part of, prior to votes on specific topics. As well, the new procedural changes allow for public comment at the close of our meetings prior to adjournment. These opportunities for public participation are in addition to regular public comment, where that is already a matter of regular procedure. Existing and new committees are in the process of being set up, with the terms of reference being largely driven by those tasked to participate. We hope that these sorts of changes will help reach our goals of a more open and relevant council in terms of the public's understanding of what we do. A phrase that I heard recently covers this sort of approach. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So what our approach in all these aspects is that we're trying to work with the community, where the council is working strongly as a team, and we want to do that with the community to make sure we reach appropriate endpoints and goals. And as well, just carrying on, over the last 2 weeks I've been involved with council in strategic planning, district budget plans for 2015, as well as regional district budget and planning and regular meetings there. I also met with our RCMP Detachment Commander Sergeant Stéphane Lacroix. We will be meeting monthly so we can maintain a good dialogue between the two of us. And lastly, as you know, there was a flooding emergency at Sadie. It has been resolved for the short term, and we'll be looking for long-term solutions to meet the needs of Sadie and Summerland's youth. And that, Corporate Officer, is my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next, the CAO's report.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Mayor. I provided my time to Ms. Thorburn.
Yes, we know. She dealt with it very well. Okay, Corporate Officer, we're on to any unfinished business at all?
No unfinished business tonight, Mr. Mayor. We have 2 reports from our Development Services Department, and the first report is on the boundary realignment subdivision within the ALR, 8900 and 9610 Gilman Road. And I will refer this to our Director of Development Services if there are any further comments or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This application is for a lot line adjustment within the agricultural land reserve. There are 2 properties involved located off Gilman Road, just south of Giants Head Mountain in our community. There are 2 properties involved, as I said. One is referred to as Block 22, which is a 64-acre undeveloped parcel, and adjacent to it, owned by the same person, is another 6.5-acre parcel known as Lot 2. The smaller parcel is located within the agricultural land reserve. The larger parcel is not. And the large parcel is designated in our official community plan as open land, and the small parcel is designated for agriculture. And the zoning represents those same designations: forestry grazing for the 64-acre parcel and A1 agriculture for the smaller parcel. There are currently 3 access points for the large parcel. One is by a 20-meter access easement on the west side of the smaller Lot 2. There's an 8-meter wide legal access to that large parcel at the foot of Gilman Road. And there is another 5-meter wide legal access plus a 15-meter wide access easement that exists off Monroe Avenue. So the proposal before council is to make a lot line adjustment, as you can see here, change the lot line, adding approximately 1.5 acres of the small parcel to the large parcel. It's 41-meter wide panhandle, if you like, at the base of Gilman Road, and it reduces down to approximately 20 meters at the other end. And this is to provide access to the larger parcel. And staff are not recommending the application, as the access for the uses permitted on the large lot seem to be adequate already with the 3 existing access points. Thank you.
Council, have any questions of staff at this point? Oh, Councillor Peak?
Yes, Ian, the larger acreage in open, it's open now and only has certain uses.
That is correct.
Now, it has an easement. The purpose of the easement is for the kind of uses that they have now on the land. Do we know why we have the need for a different kind of access?
We're not certain, but the applicant is in the gallery, so they may be able to answer that question.
Okay, that's one of my,
Okay.
I want to know why you need something different than what you have already.
Okay, we'll get to the applicant in a couple of minutes, if that's okay. Councillor Carlson?
Has this lot 22 ever been part of any official community plans prior to any changes made to it since '96? Or has it always been as is?
It's always been open land and always been zoned forestry grazing.
So I have a bit of a question here. With that proposed lot line, which is the dotted line,
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
so the one house, the house to the right, is that's not really a separate lot, is it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this parcel to the right here is a separate lot owned by, and it's not involved in this lot line adjustment, it's owned by a separate person.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
This smaller lot here is owned by the same person as the larger lot, which are the 2
Ah,
lots
okay.
involved in the lot line adjustment application.
Okay. So, yes, so block 22 essentially has a panhandle coming down to Gilman. That's what it amounts to.
That's what they're hoping.
Yeah, I see. Any other questions from council? Councillor Barkwell?
What if they did an amalgamation of the 2 lots? What would they be doing what they wanted anyway, or?
That's certainly an option. I suspect the reason that isn't preferred is because then they would have 1 lot which has somewhat lesser value than 2 separate titles that could be sold separately. But that's certainly an option.
Any other questions? I think it's getting pretty good time for the proponent to get up and please state your name and address, et cetera, and proceed.
So it's still Jonathan Austin with McElhaney Consulting.
Okay, well, my memory is
No, that's
really
okay. I
very,
live at,
very good, but not long.
I live at 150 Jewel Place here in Summerland.
Okay.
So I would like to just clarify something significant, and that's that the current application is, you know, despite the report to council, is not affiliated with any change in zoning, change in OCP, change in urban growth. There's no change in use being proposed. I do understand, because we've been working with the owner for a number of years as well, we do understand the history on the property. Certainly the owner has had interest in seeing this land available for future development because she would like to market it as such. So I think that's where that sentiment comes from, but just so we're clear, we're not proposing any change in use. We're simply proposing a boundary adjustment. And the reason for this is sort of twofold. Primarily, it's to enhance the value of both of the properties. Again, because the owner is interested in the future of selling one or both of those properties. So no, they would not be interested in consolidating properties, because again, the value is greater if you have two parcels. The second is to provide better access to the upper topography of the larger parcel. So a key point in here is that on the, while it's true there's an existing easement on the west boundary of the smaller lot, there is a rough track that meanders up to the upper property. It has not been developed thus far as an actual driveway. Several years ago, the owner applied to the ALC to relocate that existing easement to the east side of the smaller lot. The ALC supported that because currently, if you have a driveway that's developed up to the upper property, it bisects two parcels that are within the ALR. So in the big picture, that would be a negative, but the owner of the property also sees it as a negative to have the driveway constructed on the west side of the property. Again, several years ago, the owner engaged a consultant to design an alternate driveway up to the property. And it followed the existing driveway to the adjacent property to the east.
Northeast.
Yeah, so it followed that existing driveway and then meandered up to the upper property. The negative on that was that it was gonna require, or it was gonna greater impact to the owner's house, which is right here. They would prefer to see that driveway, in the long term, moved away from that house, again, to make the smaller lot more desirable. So we were engaged to see, could we design a driveway that would fall closer to the east boundary of that smaller lot, so within that panhandle that we're suggesting. We feel that what we're proposing follows the original intent that the ALC supported, which was moving a future driveway to the upper lot to the east side
I'm with
of
you.
the smaller parcel, to the, closer to the ALR boundary itself. So what we have is a preliminary design for a new driveway that would start about here, and it would tie into the existing driveway right about here, and then it, as best we can, works with the topography we have to swing back up to the lot above. I can answer any questions.
Sure, Councillor Trainer.
I just have a quick question. So, why wouldn't you just build a driveway at the end of the cul-de-sac up to the property to take you up there?
It's felt that just the topography of it becomes fairly impractical.
Okay.
Currently, again, because we're not proposing any zoning change or any further subdivision of the bigger parcel. Currently, it's seen desirable to have a possible house site near the top of that proposed panhandle.
Okay.
So right now, while it's true there are the two existing access points and the undeveloped easement, right now, those two access points there wouldn't necessarily support.
Okay. So then the driveway on this easement, how many homes, I guess, would it serve? Like, how wide would it be?
Sorry, the one that we're.
On the proposed one that you want?
It satisfies the district's minimum standards for a single residence.
Oh, single?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Well, right now, it only allows for a single residence.
But
if
it
I'm
would
not
be
mistaken.
going in to eventually serve potentially down the road.
No, that's something we want to be clear on. Like I said, respectfully, I understand the history with the owner, but we're not proposing that. It's quite true. The report outlines the steps that a future developer would have to take.
Okay.
OCP amendment, et cetera.
Yeah.
But we're not proposing that. No, like, the flip side of that is if you're the owner of the property and you're trying to propose boundary changes to enhance the value of your properties, you're thinking about all the eventualities. So, you know, granted, right now, the district doesn't support the future development of that property, but things do change. I mean, if you look at Summerland in the last 10 years, you have district-owned property that would have been proposed for major development that is now more recently being considered again for farm use. So it does change, and any future development that later on by someone else is going to be subject to the same processes right now.
Okay, so the purpose of this easement then is just to potentially serve one home?
Yeah, right now, the owner is interested in providing direct road access to the upper part of the property, to not have a situation where she's got a driveway easement, you know, bisecting the existing lot to the south. So this easement would come off title. So all the farmable land is kept contiguous.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Just a question. So if it's not, if the purpose isn't to accommodate any development right now, why, it's just to basically enhance the value of the property. Don't you think it would be better than just to come to us once you have once a future development is, you know, is ready to be proposed, so we can consider it as a whole?
But actually, she's not proposing any development.
That's
So
what I mean.
the purpose of the boundary adjustment is,
To
again, just to make both properties a bit more marketable. You know, if I use my own example, I have as Ian knows, a very problematic driveway easement for my property in Summerland. Given the size of the property, they see some value in having direct road frontage to the upper part of the property.
Councillor Boot.
You mentioned that the Agricultural Land Commission had supported a road on the east side of the lot before. In order for them to give that approval, it must have been asked for. So why wasn't that done?
The quick answer is she wasn't happy with the driveway as it was designed. So initially did not proceed with it. So again, it's similar to what we're proposing today, but the design called for the, rather than a boundary adjustment, it called for an alternate easement being filed. And the easement would loosely, it would come up like this and then swing up to the upper part of the property. The negative in that is that while it was viable as far as constructing the driveway, it would have left, a reasonably sized portion of her property east of that alienated from the house site. So it would have been a positive, and that's why the ALC approved it. It would have been a positive as far as the result would be the cancellation of the easement on the west boundary. So there would never be a driveway constructed there. So the farmland stays together. But for the owner of the smaller lot, it still would have meant some of the land being alienated to the
East side.
east of that proposed driveway. So what we attempted to do was to suck that new driveway as close we could to the east boundary within the panhandle that we're proposing.
Okay, I think our planner had a comment.
I just wanted to advise council, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to advise council that the easement registration does not require the District of Summerland approval. The easement on the east side was placed in there without the district's approval or consultation. And same with the road alignment that went to the ALC. That is not required to come to council or have staff input. This particular proposal does have to come before council and get the District of Summerland's input. Just a point.
Because it's a subdivision?
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Just further to that, and I mean, Ian was quite right in exercising his discretion, but it did meet a number of criteria, like the proposal as it is met a number of criteria that would have allowed the approving officer to approve the subdivision application without ALC input if he felt that the result was, I forget the phrasing, but.
Beneficial to farming.
Exactly. And I'm not disputing Ian's decision on it, but because of that, we know we have to go through this process first.
So this still has to go through the ALC after this?
Mr. Mayor, if council does not support the subdivision, then it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. But
If
we
council
did-
does support the application, then it will be forwarded to the Land Commission for their decision, and they may or may not agree with council.
I see. Any other questions? Councillor Peak?
The word subdivision has two meanings. So when I think of a subdivision in the English language, it's going to be a collection of homes developed on a particular piece of land. That's not how it's used here. It's used as, it's a plan that allows access to a piece of property, and it happens to be the subdivision of some land to create access. So it's not that they're planning at this point of putting more homes. They want better access to this land. I'm not, did you want to interject something, Jonathan, in the way I'm interpreting it?
Only if you want me to.
Go ahead. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
You're right. Normally, you think subdivision, you're creating more parcels. In this instance, it is a subdivision because we're changing parcels. So we sometimes call it a lot line adjustment subdivision.
Yeah,
So we still have to meet a number of the same conditions.
because to actually change anything, you'd have to go through an OCP and zone changing and everything.
If
to
we
do it.
wanted to change the use, yes.
Councillor Holmes?
I just noticed in the, that the Advisory Planning Commission provided a recommendation to support the application. Did they produce a report or anything like that?
Mr. Mayor, the Advisory Planning Commission didn't really debate the issues that have come forward in the staff report. When the item goes to the Advisory Planning Commission, staff does not provide a recommendation. It's simply the application goes forward and the proponent is there to explain. And they recognize that this wasn't creating any new lots, and they didn't think there was any issue in supporting it, so that is what they did.
Have you gone out to take a look at it, Ian, yourself?
I've been out at this parcel many times over the last 10 years, and my first job when I was started with the District of Summerland was to meet with the owner of the property and see if I could help sort out her aspirations, which I was unsuccessful in doing. I've been out there many times, have probably tens, if not 50s of email. There's been a few applications over history over the last 10 years on the property. I've been out there many times.
Okay, Councillor Boot?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, given that the approval was granted by the APC and it went on to the ALC, and the proponent decided that she didn't like the design and how it separated her property, and that it's in the ALR, is the land that's in the ALR, so the smaller parcel, is it being farmed?
Can I just speak to the first part of your question first? I just wanted to clarify, so as Ian said before, when a easement is filed, say for access over ALR property, easement's just an
Oh,
agreement.
yeah, that's right, it didn't have to go to the
It didn't
ALC.
have to go to the district.
Okay.
So the APC meeting that we're speaking of more recently was a consideration of whether this was an appropriate application to bring to council. So they were looking at the same information, essentially, that you are tonight, without Ian's report.
The proposed lot line.
Yeah. So again, I just want to clarify, when I was speaking of the original driveway that our applicant proposed, which again did something like this. She was applying to the ALC to construct a driveway in that location. So the district was not involved in that. That was just between her and the ALC. And the ALC supported it because they didn't like the easement on the west side of the property. Because to answer the next part of your question, I guess there's some agricultural use on this smaller lot. And because it's within the ALR and adjacent to a larger farmed property to the west, the ALC would definitely like to never see a driveway there. They'd like to see it pushed off to the east side of the property.
Okay, and that makes perfect sense. What I'm trying to understand is if that was the easement that was granted on the east side of the property,
Yeah.
and now the woman, I don't know who lives there, has said that she wants to have the lot line kind of in the middle, so that, not in the middle, but as the proposed lot line as it shows there, because she doesn't want to separate agricultural land that would have been separated from the rest of the lot with the easement to the east. That leads me to the question again, is the land being farmed? If that's what her concern is, my question is the land being farmed? If that's what her worry is, she didn't want to separate the farmed land, is it actually being farmed? Is that a valid, concern?
Go ahead.
Okay, it to my knowledge, it's not like a large commercial farming operation by any stretch. But, the property itself, it is within the ALR, and the area on the majority of it on the western side of the property, in and around that existing house is, it's viable farm land, whereas the eastern section of the property, the topography is, it's deeper, as you can see here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not currently under, I don't believe any of it's under cultivation.
So then her concern that she is separating areas that are farmable, say, is not really valid?
Her concern is still the value of her property and securing more direct access to the upper side of the property. She has certain tools at her disposal because her land is within the ALR. So you're right that we are proposing a lot line adjustment that is palatable to the ALC. That's why we didn't propose the panhandle on the east side, although the topography is a little bit more friendly, because we know right away that that's
West side, you mean?
yeah, like it just simply wouldn't be supported by the ALC.
Yeah.
So if you put yourself in the shoes of the owner, she's thinking she'd like to be able to sell one or both of these properties in the future. She'd like to have them sort of clean, and yeah, it's access and value.
Okay, Councillor Carlson?
This is probably more for Ian. So it's a 63-acre piece of property which can have one home built on it at this point in time. Are there a lot of people out there that are willing to put the services in that are required to get it from the road all the way out to wherever it is they decide to build their house? Or are they gonna go off the grid?
I don't know, but I would guess they probably wouldn't go off the grid. They would probably ask for a water service, which is the only service that we could provide them, up through that panhandle, which is,
What about electricity?
well, electricity, there is electricity there as well.
So, the only reason they didn't want to go with the ALC's, an alternate easement, was because it didn't create a sort of a clean legal access to you'd end up having an easement over one property instead of having a actual property line to run that through. Is that basically where we're coming from?
Yeah, it's true. We could have circumvented all this. We could have dealt directly with the LC and gone to them with a proposed easement, but a number of the costs, a number of the processes involved are very similar to what we're trying to undertake with changing the boundaries. And in the long run, that's seen as more desirable, especially when you're dealing with a large property like that, as opposed to having your primary access point by way of easement.
I guess sometimes I see these things as, you know, certainly it's looked at as one parcel, one home at this point, and to some it would seem like, you know, this is sort of the foot in the door, that they want to do much more in the way of development, and it's very unlikely to happen, in that other services that might need to be there, for example, you know, if it was done as country residential, 1 hectare lots not requiring sewer, you're going to require, you know, road network and, you know, waterworks and so on to get in there. And that certainly isn't in line with anything we're thinking on in terms of the OCP at this point in time. And I know there are other areas where that might be considered, but it's certainly not being part of the plans to this point. So, you know, it's, I think looking at our recommendation at this point is not, you know, any change from the recommendation is giving someone hope that there's going to be some kind of substantial change in thinking. And I wouldn't want anybody to get that kind of idea. But at the same time, it is a separate property right now. I mean, there are 2 separate properties. And so you're looking for a lot line adjustment to come down the road for access. It's, you know, it's a difficult decision, because these things are kind of built to, you know, provide access points to the point where they become something else down the road. And I think, you know, staff has given us a recommendation here, and I guess we'll have to see where this goes now. So, any additional comments? Yeah.
I do get what you're saying, and I mean, I, like Ian, know the history of, you know, this and other like owners in Summerland, right? But again, I mean, in my mind, it should be treated as an independent exercise, in the same way that we're not, you know, we haven't come to you with a phase strata development application or an industrial park or a, you know, wind farm. Like, we're just dealing with a landowner that wants to make best use of 2 properties that she
I think
owns.
you have to remember too, although Ian has history, other than the fact that I look down on it every time I go up Giant's Head, it's got very little history for me, although I'm familiar with 1 or 2 of it. The rest of the council certainly has no history with this, with respect to this piece of land. Councillor Barkwell.
So if I understand it correctly, this lot line readjustment would simply be a different way of accomplishing what they could do anyway with an easement, and they would prefer it this way rather than the easement way.
Well, it's a more desirable outcome, for sure. The you know, the benefit again is that you have direct physical access as opposed to access by way of easement. And similarly, your net result is not, you know, as you the owner of the smaller lot, you don't have a driveway running up near that boundary and then land on the other side of it that you can never really make use of.
Even though it's not being farmed or anything, you feel like you've lost ownership of it if it's on the other side of somebody else's driveway.
I mean, that is the situation that a lot of us are in. So, you know, what we tried to do is maintain the lot size for the smaller lot that the current zoning allows, and then working with the topography and the existing drive that's there.
And if you're trying to forestall something that you know, because of some history that I'm not aware of, it doesn't seem like you're preventing anything at all by not proceeding with this subdivision. It can be done one way or the other, so you may as well do it the tidier way. That's what I'm looking at.
I think that could be true, but the tidiest way of all is that there's an 8-meter wide legal access right now at the end of Gilman Road. And the way the contour lines work, it looks to me like that's a pretty suitable location for any kind of buildings. Whether it has the view potential that you may want, I don't know. But 8 meters wide, right at the end of a existing cul-de-sac, I don't know, you're gonna go to a tremendous amount of expense to put a road up, a bit of a cliff face is what it looks like, when you could be going almost horizontally off an existing road. Yeah, so, anyway, I think we'll just have to make a decision here, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, what's council's wish? Any discussion?
Mr.
We've
Mayor?
asked a lot of questions. of
Mr.
staff.
Mayor, I
Yes,
think
sir.
you may wish to just ask if there's any public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Is there any public comment in addition to the proponent? Hearing none. Okay, any discussion by council here amongst us? We've now questioned the proponent and our planning department. What do you have to say? Councillor Trainer?
I'm just wondering if anybody else wants more time to think about this, or...
Well, I think we've had everything presented in
Okay,
front of us.
fair enough.
Councillor Peak?
In light of the fact that the advisory committee has recommended it, which is another body of public people, and the fact that it is a cleaner method of looking at entrance and egress, a more direct route, probably a less expensive route when you think about construction of a driveway, I see this as probably a little more viable. Those would be my comments.
Anybody else? Councillor Holmes?
I have some difficulty with it. My thinking was almost like Councillor Trainer. I'd like to think about this some more. It seems to me that, you know, you're increasing value of one property but decreasing value of the other, but, you know, is that council's business if that's what somebody wants to do? I don't know. To me, if, you know, it's a bit too vague to make a decision on right now, because there's nothing you can nothing we can grasp that what you want, you know, that what is that needed for. Right now, it's not really needed for anything. Now, it might in the future be needed for something. So my way of thinking is, okay, well, when that future comes, then come to us with the proposal, so we can look at it all as one, because you know, as was said, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and so you know, that could be approved, but then it's once maybe some future development does go on there, but after the assessment, it might be decided it's better to come off the cul-de-sac anyway, you know. So I think it's something you should look at when we're looking at it as an entire package rather than just as a panhandle to nowhere.
I think essentially what you're saying, Councillor Holmes, is that the staff recommendation essentially says not be supported at this time. And I think that's a reasonable rationale. There are other reasons, essentially, you know, certainly this is a large parcel. It's also essentially forestry, grazing, etc. It's got other uses at present by wildlife and so on. So I can't see, unless it enters into our plan somewhere down the road, that it's worth supporting. Councillor Boot, you have a question?
I just have a comment. Given that there's the option to put the easement in on the east side, and given that there at the Gilman cul-de-sac is a way to get up to that property, and that it's agricultural land, I will be approving the recommendation as made by our staff to not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call for the vote, please. All in favor? Actually, we'll have to look at
We'll
the
have to move in
recommendation. I'm
second,
sorry.
yes.
Yep. Could you please read the recommendation, Corporate Officer?
Yeah. That the boundary realignment subdivision within the agricultural land reserve located at 8900 and 9610 Gilman Road not be supported at this time.
All in favor?
No.
Pardon? Well, it's a recommendation. Who, can we have someone move the recommendation or not? Thank you. Councillor Boot, seconder.
Councillor Holmes?
Councillor Holmes, did you have your hand up? Sorry, I didn't see it. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you, the motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is the second report from the Director of Development Services, and it's a zoning amendment application for 5815 Highway 97. And this is also for first reading of the bylaw, and a public hearing will be held on Monday, March the 9th. And I will refer this to Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This site is located at the intersection of Highway 97 and Johnson Street. The property is designated as low-density residential on our official community plan, and it is currently zoned RSD2. This application was approved some time ago, and a subdivision approval was given for a 21-lot subdivision. 6 of the lots along the south boundary were created as Phase 1 of that subdivision. Phase 2 is shown on that plan, which shows 15 lots available under the RSD2 zoning. And the owner developer would like to rezone that to RSD1, and that would give them an additional 4 lots. So they would be going from 15 lots to a 19-lot configuration on that parcel. And the application is supported by staff, subject to a covenant being registered, suggesting that they can only do 19 lots in substantial conformance with this plan.
Thank you. Questions from council or staff? Councillor Carlson.
So if there's one subdivision on the one side of Johnson Street and one subdivision on the other side of Johnson Street, each subdivision potentially are responsible for a piece of sidewalk. Does that sidewalk eventually go all the way down Johnson from one to the other?
Mr. Mayor, in this particular scenario, when that property was rezoned, there was a covenant placed on the property at that time suggesting that the sidewalk that they were responsible for on the south side of Johnson Street, they would use that money to construct it on the north side of Johnson Street, because at that time the intersection was a better connection across on the north side, and there was a bus stop on the north side. So at the moment, the sidewalk that they're required to construct as a condition of subdivision will be built on the north side of Johnson Street, only to Cordy Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peak.
Follow up on the question about the sidewalk. At what point is that requirement to be fulfilled?
That will be a requirement of approval of whichever subdivision plan gets approved. If they build the 15 lots as shown here, or the 19 lots as shown here, either approval will be subject to construction of that sidewalk.
My question being, is it to be required to be built at the time of completion of the subdivision? Do they have to do it by a certain date? That was really my question.
Completion of the subdivision, registration of the subdivision plan, if you technically.
Okay, so they don't have to have sold all the lots and done the build-out. Is the registration of the plan then triggers when the sidewalk goes in?
Generally, although what can happen is they can post a bond, and they have a time period, 1 year from the signing of the plan, so they can sell some lots, get some revenue, but they have to construct within 1 year of that time period.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Councillor Carlson.
Do people have to cross Johnson Street in order to get to a block of sidewalk? Is that?
There will be only sidewalk on either the south side or the north side.
And that could still be discussed?
Well, there is a covenant in place now, Mr. Mayor, but that could be revisited by council. The theory is that the people who are in the development would walk down the street out at this point and then on down the street.
Right.
It's more the folks across the other side of the highway that are crossing the highway that would be using the sidewalk on the north side, or people that are waiting for the bus.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? I guess,
I was going to say, if I might.
yeah, go ahead.
I certainly see the potential for densification in this area. It seems to make good sense where you have good access to schools and down to the water and access out onto the highway. So in terms of densification, I don't see a difficulty in having the extra lots on that subdivision.
Any comments, Councillor Trainer?
Not yet.
Not yet, but they could be in there any time. Because the issue here, apart from sidewalks, the issue is the RSD2 being rezoned to RSD1, which is a difference between 7,000 square feet per lot and 5,000 square feet per lot. And I think when we get to public hearing, that is going to be the issue in Trout Creek. So that's what we have to be concerned about, whether we're going to move this to public hearing or not. And I think, the rationale for, densification, I'm certainly aware of that. And as we are grappling with infrastructure costs at this time throughout the community, the more payers we have on any existing infrastructure, the better. Because it's exceedingly difficult to continue to meet the requirements of cash flow for the community, either in property taxes or more appropriately probably is sewer levies that are placed on properties to, in addition to the DCCs that come out as a property for development. So is that correct? Am I reading that pretty much correctly, Mr. Planner?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, because essentially everybody pays DCCs, whatever they may be, and they are on a per lot basis. And what are the DCCs right now?
Approximately $8,600 per lot.
Okay, so those are paid, and then in addition to that, people pay ongoing property taxes, of course, and then they also pay the ongoing levy for sewer and for the water treatment plant.
I believe so. I may
Yes.
defer to our CFO in
Yeah.
that regard.
Yes, the current structure in place is that there are charges for sewer parcel tax and water parcel tax. I think that's what you're referring
Yes,
to,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Mayor.
yeah.
Yes.
For some reason or other, the partial tax words were missing from my vocabulary. But that's the key thing here. And I think for this area, it's probably something we would like to move forward on because I see the difficulties the community has is with paying for infrastructure, and then even further to that, the ongoing maintenance and so on costs of any subdivision. So, the more people we have paying for those services, the better. There is a limit, I think, in terms of the the particular neighborhoods, but there is already some RSD1s. And I might ask the planner, up on Thornburg, we did some small subdivisions up there on Thornburg. What were those, RSD1s or RSD2s?
Those are at the moment RSD2. When we changed the zoning bylaw, we made some adjustments in what the zones were for. So at the moment, the only RSD1 in Trout Creek is in the Dale Avenue
I
subdivision.
see, okay. I just couldn't remember how small some of those lots got, because I know we were reducing the lot sizes to allow, I believe, 3 or 4 lots on one corner of Thornburg and another street that intersects. Councillor Trainer, please.
I think what you said makes sense. Trout Creek has sewer. It's kind of a good place to develop. From a tax dollar perspective, you certainly get more when there's more lots. And really, it's only a difference of 4 lots. But one subdivision has already been approved with RDS1, and this is a second one, possibly, and there'll probably be more. So I think over time, it may change the character of Trout Creek. The people that move there have slightly bigger lots, and that's why they live there. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I think I would like to hear from the neighbors just to get their input.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
well,
I do understand the need to develop there, but I think we just need to
I just
be
wanted to make those
respectful.
arguments transparent as
Yep.
to why they might be considered. I think on balance, we have to consider what the neighborhood also wants.
Mhm.
But I think the neighborhood also is in a privileged position in having extensive services on quite large lots, so, which is fine. But then you have, you know, limited capacity to maintain those services over time. Councillor Barco.
I'll be interested in hearing what the people in Trail Creek have to say, but I'd like to point out that these lots are right beside the highway, which is pretty noisy. I mean, you can hear the highway, you know, all the way at Powell Beach and the point. And in general, I think you see smaller, cheaper lots close to a noisy sort of a highway like that. It's probably just what winds up being. Maybe, I don't know if more appropriate is the correct word, but your larger Trail Creek style lot, I think, would be further from the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that as being a reasonable point. There was something I was going to say when you started that, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Anyway, I think it's a good idea to go take it to public hearing and see what people have to say.
Most definitely.
Yeah, okay. So, corporate officer, we can...
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we require a mover and a seconder for the recommendation to go to public hearing on March the 9th.
Okay. Councillor Peak, Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried. Thank you. So we're on
next,
to-
Mr. Mayor, we have a recommendation from a special council meeting that we had on Tuesday, February the 17th. And this is in relation to the 2015-2019 financial plan. And I will refer this to our Director of Finance, who will provide some background material.
I'm just getting the clicker.
Sorry, Murray.
Okay, with this, we'll take a short break here for 2 minutes while our CFO gets set up.
Yes.
Okay, our CFO.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a presentation to summarize my report that's on the agenda tonight. And I am going to start with just a refresher or review of surplus and reserves available for project funding in each of the 4 funds that the district has. And the reason for this slide is just to bring back to your memory and refocus you on the amount of money that is available in each of the funds, and why the recommendation before you tonight is for a 3% increase in property taxes, 5% in water fees, 5% in sewer fees, and 0 increase that stays with the district for the electric fund. So when we look at the surplus levels, the general fund has a fairly reasonable amount of surplus, but certainly water, sewer, and electric surpluses are at low levels. Reserve accounts that could be used to fund our projects. Again, the general fund has, you know, a fairly healthy balance in terms of our property tax revenues. So if you recall, that 1% of property taxes is $67,500. To have $2 million in reserves is a fairly decent level of reserve accounts that can be used for project funding. And as we go to water, sewer, you know, those amounts are very small. The electric fund does have $750,000 available for projects from reserve accounts. And there are some statutory reserve funds that are available to fund projects as well. And again, the water fund is quite low in that level, and the electric fund, there are no statutory reserves in that fund. The Community Works Fund, which is gas tax money that's handled through the UBCM and comes to local governments from the federal government. The district will receive just over $500,000 a year over the life of the new agreement we assigned, so that's a 10-year agreement, and we do have almost $550,000 on hand. So those are monies that have been identified as available for our project funding. And while, again, I did say, the general fund at just over $2.1 million in reserve accounts is a fairly significant amount of money. If we take a look then at this next slide, which is our infrastructure capital project or project needs that are listed out in the attachment to the report that you have in front of you tonight. The 2015 needs are listed there, and the 2016 to 19 needs have been distributed at the last meeting that we were at. So you can see on this slide that with our confirmed funding sources, and that includes those gas tax monies and those reserve accounts, using those to fund certain expenditures as well, that our projects over the next 5 years total over $30 million. And our funds that we have on hand are right around the $15 million mark. So including the recommended reserves the recommended increases that are at 3% for property taxes and 5% for water and sewer, we're over the span of a 5-year period looking at more than a 50% shortfall on our project funding. So I wanted to remind everyone about that. That's not new information tonight. Yes, Councillor Barkwell?
Oh, sorry. I was focusing on that.
Could you go back to the first slide and educate me a little bit more about what the difference between a surplus, a reserve, and a statutory fund is, and examples of what the sort of projects each of those different types of funds could be used for?
Certainly. So the surplus is not allocated or identified as a funding source for any project. It would be funds available for emergency purposes. In a healthy organization, you would see each of the funds having money set aside or residing in that surplus account that it's almost like your rainy day disaster type money. You don't want to have no ability as an organization to have some money that isn't fully committed or fully planned for. The reserve accounts are allocations of surplus from prior years or some outside funding that the district received that didn't get spent on a project. So, for instance, if we, one of the delegations that we had was to use some trestle money that was left over from that project. The money had come from the province, and wanting to use it for a trail improvement project. So it resides in one of those reserve accounts. So it's those kinds of funds. As well, each year, council will make a decision on the operating results from the current year, what will happen to any surplus that there is once we finish up the year. So for 2014, we don't have those numbers yet, but when we do, a report will come forward, and there would be a recommendation to council on where the monies might go. So say last year there was money put into a policing reserve, so that if we were to have a major crime, we've got some money set aside to fund additional expenses that could be incurred for that. Or we could decide to increase our snow clearing reserve, or we could decide to put some money away for future cultural events or activities or funds for that. And the statutory reserve funds are created by bylaw and have strings attached to them. So there are only specific things that those monies can be spent on. And most often the string that they have is that they have to be used on capital projects. Is that sufficient?
Just a little bit more. What sort of restrictions do we have on the general reserve funds? You mentioned like a police reserve. I heard it. If we had like a major crime and we had to have detectives and such, we would have to pay for that additional policing in Summerland?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, and so we have a fund for that, but if it wasn't sufficient, would we be able to pass a bylaw or something and move more money in there, or?
So the allocations of surplus into reserve accounts is at council's discretion.
Okay.
I would say there's a moral or value qualifier on some of the funds where they've come from outside groups or other fundraising activities where they were identified to be for a certain purpose, that they aren't as easy for council to make that decision. Although the power is there, you certainly could, as a group, decide if it were that we needed, if it's dire straits and we have to have the money to pay for that crime investigation, you could say that trestle money is better to go to that than using it for trail improvements. That's a choice that council would have to discuss and decide on. But certainly is within your power to allocate those reserve accounts to any source you might determine was.
And the surplus accounts are surplus monies that we haven't decided, or previous councils haven't sort of allocated to a specific type of fund?
That's correct, unallocated surplus, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a little bit less sort of a moral restriction on their use then.
So
Or no-
that would be
no
one
restriction.
source that we could go to for that example of severe crime, that there is, almost $600,000 in the general fund available. Not so much so when you get into, say, the sewer fund, where it's only $48,000.
Councillor Peak?
Yes, I'm wondering, when we're looking at a Canada Build Fund, which we are for the Garnet Valley Water Separation Project, where will those 1/3 funds that we have to supply come from?
The current plan has them coming from borrowing.
Okay, so we save the funds and surpluses or reserve for projects that we might more presently be using them for, and when you look at future usages like a Canada Build Fund, then you might, it's more advantageous to borrow, depending on the circumstances in any given year.
I would say it always costs you more when you borrow, because there's an interest factor there. So in the case of the water separation project, the district's 1/3 is shared between the general fund for the road project and the water fund. When you look at the funding that's available in the water fund, there are no monies available to meet our 1/3 share there. So borrowing really is the only option that we've got there.
Thank you for that clarification.
Welcome.
Okay, I guess you can continue.
All right, so this slide, just to, I think, I'm done with it unless there's any questions there about what it represents. So just the cumulative 5-year totaling up of the projects versus our confirmed funding, including the recommended increases in the report before you tonight, and showing a more than 50% shortfall for the 5 years. This slide, you've seen before, is just a way of looking at the property tax and user fee increases as to where the funds will go. So in the legend is a percentage increase. The green bars represent the full increase, and the bars to the left of the green for each fund indicate a breakdown of the increase. So the first column is the general fund, where we have the 3% recommended increase, and 100% of it is going to infrastructure needs. So current projects that are on our lists to renew or expand our infrastructure. In the water fund, the 5% increase is broken into 4 categories: infrastructure renewal, some operating costs, water volume decrease, and the administration fee and fleet adjustment that we've gone through in detail at previous meetings. So what I would say or comment on the bars for the water 5% increase is that, certainly Of the 5% increase, about 0.5% is going to infrastructure costs, that fund has increased operating expenses and a decrease in revenues caused by that water volume change from our earlier model, where we were figuring out what the fee needed to be for our new metered water. And from our information statements that we have from the past year, we could see that there's been conservation, which is always, to be applauded and celebrated. But on the finance side of it, it means that we don't collect as much money. In the sewer fund, we do have the same 5% increase. And in this fund, we have more money available to go into our capital infrastructure needs, just over 3 out of the 5% going there, and a smaller amount going to, again, that revision of the administration fee and the fleet charges. And in the electric fund, 100% of the 2.625 recommended increase will be going to Fortis BC to pay for the increase in the wholesale electric purchase costs.
So,
This-
just to interject, so essentially it's just a straight pass-through on the electric fund.
That's correct,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
This pie chart is really the same information as the chart previous. It shows the proposed increases in all 4 funds, just grouped together in those 4 categories. I guess it's 4 categories. So we've got the infrastructure money devoted to that, taking up 40% of the total increase, 40% going in increased operating costs, either to Fortis BC or flowing through the requirements from Interior Health for increased water testing. We've got that water volume decrease and the shift of the sewer to sewer and water of the administration fee and fleet charges. So if there's no questions on that one, I'm going to move on to highlights
Okay.
from
Quickly,
the budget. So in the general fund, we're having new growth, new money coming into the community. It's estimated to be $81,000 in property taxation, which is up from 2014, where it was $66,000. We've already talked about the 3% increase going fully to support our infrastructure renewal. The water rate increase, again, we've talked about that, and the sewer increase. No different information here than was on the charts that we just looked at. The return to historical levels of funding from the small communities and traffic fine revenue sharing grants from the province resulted in an additional $138,000 of grant revenue expected in 2015. We had the shift of the street lighting and Christmas lights from the electric fund to the general fund. So that was to realign our reporting in a way that is common to local governments that don't have an electrical utility, and to make us more comparable with other communities when we do look at our works department. And that meant that we had a shift which was covered by increased the transfer between the funds of $334,000. That readjustment or revision of the administration and fleet costs again caused that same kind of a shift between the utility funds and the general fund. So the electric was funded through the existing transfer, and the water and sewer, we've already talked about the increased user fees, that a portion of them will go to meet those additional costs in those funds. And now on to the project list. So Mr. Mayor already had spoken tonight about the provision of space on Main Street for the Summerland Community Arts Council and on Victoria Road for the Potters Guild. This is the commitment of the funding for the remainder of 2015. We have an obligation to provide furnishings for the new library in the amount of $125,000. So everyone's looking forward to the completion of that building, and I believe we're still on target for a summer opening. Mr. Mayor?
We've fallen behind a few weeks. There was a contractor had to be changed over and the framing side of things. So we've fallen several weeks behind, but we're still looking at midsummer.
Summer opening.
Yep.
We've also talked already tonight about the Cultural and Recreation Master Plan. That's $85,000 in the 2015 budget. The Fire Services Training Facility, the 2015 portion for that project, $147,138. That is a $372,000 project in total. We also have in the current year plan the Garnet Valley Water Separation, which is that Build Canada grant application that we were speaking of. And it includes the road reconstruction and some borrowing costs. So the grant application, the cost of the project is $6.890 million. And over the next 5 years, we will see just over $2 million is in the plan for 2015, just over $5 million for 2016. Those are the two construction years. And then from 2017 to 2019, those are debt repayment costs that total $1.3 million. Roads and sidewalk projects for $150,000. That's the general revenue taxation funding for that. The Director of Works will provide a list to council of potential projects, and that will give you an opportunity to decide which work will be done in 2015. The same with the climate action projects. There is $75,000 in a reserve account right now. That money comes about 50-50 from the district or from the province from our Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program grant that we receive. That committee has put a call out to the community and is also going to put together a list that will come forward to council before any of the projects are undertaken. We have $170,000 in fleet renewal line items in the 2015 plan. Parks, Trails, Network projects, the same process will happen with that money as the roads and sidewalk money. A list will come forward from the recreation manager. Brenda Ingram will bring a list forward in conjunction with the Works Department as what project will be included in either the upgrade or expansion of our trail network. There is $45,000 in the plan for the skateboard park design work. The flume and water intake structure upgrade, that's some design money from that grant application program. So it again is split into future years, and that's really a small portion of that project. And there's the wastewater treatment plant filtration and grit removal upgrade, again a grant application project. So the flume water intake structure upgrade and the wastewater treatment plant filtration and grit removal upgrade are both 100% grant application projects. If we are unsuccessful in receiving that funding, then we will have to revisit the plan to see how we can undertake those works. So that concludes my presentation, unless there are questions from council.
Questions? Councillor Peak?
We have, just clarify for me, we hope to go forward with an asset management plan, and are we getting an application for funding for that?
Yes, that project appears in the 2014 plan and will come forward when we bring the carry forward projects before council. So that's why it's not included in the lists that you have before you right now.
Very good. Well, I'm pleased to have that come forward, because I know that some of what we're going to be doing, our fleet renewal, and that is really important for the management of all of our departments, and that kind of a plan, an asset management plan, gives us the impetus to continue that, and I'm very pleased to see that happening in this term of council.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, I guess looking at a couple of the items, particularly the wastewater treatment plant filtration and grit removal, I mean, that's a pretty critical project in terms of you know, the longevity of our plant. And I guess, you you know, the grant applications have gone out. When would we likely see any response to those grant applications, CFO?
The deadline for the applications for that program is April the 15th. So we haven't yet submitted.
Okay.
And when I last checked, which was a couple weeks ago, there was nothing on the website about a decision date for those applications.
Mhm.
The earlier program, February 18th deadline for the Build Canada application, which we have submitted, has said that they will be making an announcement in the fall.
Okay. So the potential for spending money really depends. It hinges on the grant application, so we wouldn't see any construction taking place until then. What about design? Are we, I think our Director of Public Works is here. Are we ready with the design work? Is that completed now? I think, if I understand correctly, it was, or it is.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the design for the filtration and grit removal upgrade has been completed, so it's ready to go. It's tender ready.
Mm-hmm. What about the Garnet Valley water separation side of things?
And Garnet Valley Water, the same, it's tender ready. The flume design is about 30% completed, and we, hope to get on that. We delayed it last year because we were running short of funds.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So with the Garnet Valley water separation, do the plans and engineering plans that are completed, does that include the road design work that is required along with it?
Mr. Mayor, it doesn't include, it includes, well, there isn't really any road design because it's just a water system. The plan is to put the road back in.
Okay.
There's funds in there, we added funds in to do road widening for a bicycle path or a walking path. We're not sure if it will even fit in there because of restrictions from the road right away, but the costs are in there. And then the design, if we get the funding, then we would do the design. But I don't think there'd be a lot of design work because, I mean, if we tried to actually realign the, center line of the road, we're gonna end up with, huge costs. So we're basically gonna have to build it to where it is and try to fit the
Yeah, I see.
in kind of a best fit situation.
Okay, thank you very much. And CFO, when you and I were talking earlier today and having me to try and understand some of these components of the budget, I think we were looking at, as an example, I think, the Garnet Valley water separation and how the grant process works vis-a-vis the actual construction and so on and so forth. So maybe you could illuminate a little bit on that, we get the grant application goes out. If we receive the grant, then we actually bill for that, and it's done as we proceed. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. It's usually a quarterly reporting process where we would submit a claim for our costs incurred to the administration department of that grant program and receive our reimbursement. So as we are incurring costs, we will we'll take a look at it and see how many dollars we can afford to cash flow without going to borrowing. We won't want to borrow ahead of when we need to,
Yeah, of course.
so we won't incur additional interest charges. And in the plan right now, it is has some money in 2015 should the approval come early in the fall and we are actually able to do some construction work that we could get started. If we don't get that approval in time to actually do some work, then the 2016 version of the plan would just shift everything forward.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't borrow until we need to, and try to lessen our costs that way.
So, and that's a 1/3, 2/3 deal on that borrowing, or
Yeah.
on the whole.
The grant, yes, the grant for that one is 2/3, 1/3 from the feds, 1/3 from the province, 1/3 from the local government.
So whatever we can't raise ourselves here, we're looking at approximately $2 million in total out of the 6.8 million. So it's a little more than $2 million in terms of our 1/3 over time.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
So from what your projections were a little earlier, there's precious little money there to provide our 1/3. So we would likely be going to borrowing to try and satisfy that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, that answers that question. Any other questions? Councillor Barkwell?
What's a typical term for the borrowing? Would it be 20 years or 25 or 15, or do you have a choice?
Absolutely, council has a choice. So the projection that we've done, so let me get my sheet to refresh my memory on it. So in this case, we were going to do a short-term borrowing, a 5-year term, which doesn't require an assent process. So if we wanted to do a long-term borrowing, then we would have to have a vote, like an alternate assent process or some public approval process before we could go ahead and do that borrowing. It's not required when you have borrowing of a term of 5 years or less.
So just in rough figures, if we went with 5 years, we'd have to pay like $500,000 a year back.
So if we, that's correct. If we go for the 5 years, the highest year is just over $450,000 principal and interest combined.
That'd be a big hit.
Okay. So essentially, council, we have finished with your questions and so on. What we have before us here is a recommendation from our CFO to proceed with the 215-219 financial plan. And corporate officer, will you just proceed
Sure.
with the recommendation?
Yeah, I can read it, yes.
Thank you.
That council give approval to the funding of the core budget, and that council give approval to a 3% property tax increase, a 5% water rate increase for all non-irrigator water, a 5% sewer rate increase, and a 2.625% electric rate increase in each year of the 5-year financial plan. And further, that council approve the recommended discretionary spending lists.
Thank you. Now, this has to proceed to bylaw, right?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
So, this is a recommendation, or if we approve this, then the next move is to form the bylaw, which will be brought back when?
Well, the next step would be to get our fees and charges bylaws updated for those increases in the user fees.
Right.
Because I would like to see those implemented April 1st, if possible. So that would be the first orders to get those in place. And then the next thing would be juggling between year-end work that we
Right.
have, as well as this budget work and our new meter water billing that we undertook for January. We're coming up on the 2nd month of that. So given those priorities, the deadline for the bylaw is that it must be adopted by May 15th, prior to May 15th. So my intent is to bring it as soon as possible. However, if I'm not able to make a March meeting with that bylaw, I'm wondering about the wisdom of bringing it in April and then bringing it again with some further changes for May.
Well,
So-
I can see that, you don't have your year-end figures precisely yet, do you?
No, we don't.
No. So
Not yet,
those
Mr.
have
Mayor.
to be entered, plus whatever other adjustments, so.
That's right.
you
We
know,
need the carry forward
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
So the first order of business will be the user fee increases.
No, I agree, there's no point in doing things twice, so, and I think given the schedule you've just outlined, there's no point in pressing the case until we actually have to move in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we were earlier, then, it does make some sense to
Well,
adopt the bylaw.
I think, given the circumstances of an election year, a changeover, and we've been very fortunate in having an interim CAO who's carried us along very well, and I think been virtually seamless. There's been absolutely no question there, but we are in that process, having to select a new CAO. It meant more meetings, bringing a new council up to speed in many ways, and so on and so forth, that I think we're doing quite well. Another year, of course, I believe, I stand to be corrected, but the budget process initially starts with departments presenting by September, I believe. Is that correct to you?
We do our budget work starting in October. Has been the last 2 times. I've been here for 2
Okay.
budgets now, so we've done that work in October. So we do start, several months ago.
I guess my point is that, you know, normally without all those kind of interruptions and interferences in normal schedule,
Yes.
that we might be addressing some of these issues a little earlier in another year.
That would certainly be my desire as
Yeah.
well, Mr. Mayor, that we have budget information, earlier in the fall.
Mhm.
To the trade-off with that is you don't have as much final information.
Yeah, correct.
So there's more estimates from the assessment authority, those sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
We would then be revisiting more changes when we
Yeah.
get to the May 15th
Well,
version.
I think too, CFO, the other aspect to this is when you have a new council coming in, and the familiarity with the budget numbers as they come is addressed more readily in a normal year as opposed to an election year followed by a lot of the extra things that this council's had to deal with in starting off.
This
So-
is the 5th meeting that we've had on
Yeah.
budget. You know, the first 4 were solely dedicated to the budget. So definitely, we've had a good review.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, council, can I have a mover of the recommendation, please? Councillor Barkwell, seconder, Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion's carried. You're all set to go.
Thank you,
Thank
Lori.
you.
You're gonna have to excuse me, I'm not feeling very well.
Okay.
You look after
Num-
yourself.
Numbers will do that to you.
Feel fine.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron, for being here. Okay, corporate officer, any new business?
No new business tonight, Mr. Mayor, and we have one bylaw for adoption, the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw. And I'll need a mover and seconder and a vote on that, please.
Councillor Peak, move the recommended bylaw. Thank you. Councillor Holmes, seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next is the councillor reports.
Okay, we'll start with Councillor Trainer.
I'll try to read this quick. Last week I attended the Summerland Chamber Business After Business at the Summerland Art Gallery and Crazy Cat Cafe on Main Street. It was great to see the gallery's latest show, Talking to Strangers, as well as meet the owner of the new cafe. This weekend, I'll be attending the 77th Annual Business and Community Excellence Awards Dinner at the Summerland Waterfront Hotel. Looking forward to that. And speaking of awards, this past weekend, I attended the Penticton Chamber Awards on Saturday night. While I was there, I had the opportunity to chat with many of the Penticton councillors, and we casually discussed ways in which our councils may be able to collaborate. As well, I had the opportunity to introduce myself to Jonathan Kruger, who is the Penticton Indian Band Chief, and he was very interested and open to meeting with our new council in Summerland, and he too would like to look at ways that we can work together.
Excellent.
I'm currently working with Mayor Waterman and Councillor Boot as part of the OCP Review Committee. We've had one meeting so far, and we have one more this week. And we've been going over changes that have been made over the past few years, asking a lot of questions, which Ian has been very helpful with, and ensuring that we have a full understanding of both the official community plan, bylaw amendments, and proposed bylaw amendments since 2008. We will be sharing our thoughts and any recommendations with the rest of council very soon, and we anticipate that this review process will help put us on track moving forward. And finally, if you're interested in gardening or growing your own food, you may wish to mark the date Saturday, March 28th on your calendar. Organizers of Penticton's popular Seedy Saturday, which happens this Saturday in Penticton, have just announced that they are bringing the event to Summerland for the first time on Saturday, March 28th. It will be held at the IOF Hall from 10 to 2. And it will feature organic seed producers, local nurseries, and organic farm producers, and lots of bedding plants, I'm told. So I've got more information if anybody's interested, and I have a little poster that I shared on my Facebook page. So that's coming up in a month. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. I think you left one thing out.
What?
weren't there some awards presented in Penticton?
Yes.
And weren't you the recipient of one of those awards?
Yes.
May I congratulate her
You
because
may do
this,
that.
you're embarrassing her.
I know. That was the intent. So, would you like to
So
say something?
as the manager of the Penticton Farmers Market, Farmers S' Market, Erin was the recipient of the Agriculture and Agribusiness Excellence Award. That's a huge thing. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
Your humility is overwhelming. I
Well
would
done.
never have left that out. Okay, thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Councillor Barkwell.
Well, how do you follow that?
Hard. It's
I've won
really
no
tough.
awards this week, this year, maybe in the last 3 years. I was attended the Heritage Commission meeting on the 16th, last Wednesday, and the big thing was the tours, which were a roaring success. They was well oversubscribed, and there's discussion to do that again in another time of the year. And they're working hard on trying to bring what their bylaws and such that they operate under into conformity with reality, and they'll be bringing that to council for their approval, hopefully, at least a discussion. And that's about it.
Okay,
And
thank
the
you.
Chamber of Commerce will see you there, all there on Saturday.
That's right. That's true. Councillor Boot.
I don't have anything to add other than attended the economic land development workshop that the province put on with Ian and other councillors. Councillor Holmes and Councillor Peak were there as well. And everything else that I have on my list has already been talked about. I invite everyone to wear bully-free pink on Wednesday, the 25th.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
First of all, I'd like to remind all the councillors to get their banner designs in by the end of the week.
Sons. No
I
daughters,
did
just
mine
sons.
over the weekend, and I have to say it's a masterpiece. It's,
Well, you-
it's more of a Picasso than a Monet, but
At
it
least-
is a masterpiece nonetheless, right?
When
Sure.
do they do again?
I hate to say this, Councillor Holmes, but it's a good thing one of us in the council
I'm
table
sure we
has
all will.
got some humility.
On February 11th, I attended the Philosopher's Cafe, which was an excellent discussion on economic development in small communities. I'm really looking forward to the report that comes out of that. There were some excellent ideas. I also attended the Land Development Readiness and Marketing Workshop in Oak Falls with Councillor Booten Peak and the mayor and staff and the chamber and all kinds of, we had great Summerland representation there. And I think it was quite useful. We learning how to develop the land development marketing plan, and I think mainly for me it stimulated some thinking about what we might want to do with some of the land that the district owns, and how we could approach that. And I look forward to the opportunity to when we start envisioning our process, especially downtown in the Warden Street lands. And, February 17th, I went to the Chamber Business After Business networking event, which was hosted by the Arts Council and Crazy Hat Bistro. I think this Business After Business event it's a great networking opportunity for local businesses, and for the chamber members who don't attend these gatherings, I don't think they know what they're missing. So I really encourage businesses to get out there, because it is excellent. February 21st, I was at Cafe Noir. That's a Saturday night, Cafe Noir, which was a fundraiser at the Art Gallery, and it was very successful. Sold out. Some great draws and great music and great coffee and wine and all that kind of good stuff. That's why we live here, right? Councillor Carlson and I had a meeting with a fellow representing some local musicians who would like to perform as buskers on our downtown streets during the summer months. And this fellow had an idea of having some sort of busking competition with different musicians and maybe different businesses and towns sponsoring the buskers, and so I pointed them to the chamber for that. But as a start, we kind of agreed that the district ought to have some sort of a busker policy. And buskers and street performers actually like the idea of having a municipal policy for busking, because it serves as a statement that buskers are actually welcome in the community, and the guidelines that it set encourages people who, really want to go out there and perform, and discourages people who are just kind of there for maybe some other reasons, right? So I don't know who on staff is responsible for busking, but I wonder if
They practice at night, no
if I
doubt.
could, if I'd be able to ask the CAO if maybe they could consider some sort of busking policy, and I'd be happy to pass along the ideas that came up in our meeting.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, usually you look for the biggest clown on staff to run with that, so I will take it upon myself to get hold of Victoria, Kelowna, maybe a couple of others who probably have policies, and I get that information for you.
Most communities do, including Penticton. It's quite common, and I think busking it does bring life and vibrancy to a community and encourages people to interact. So I think it's a really good thing to encourage. One final thing is I've had quite a number of people asking me about the arena being closed on Family Day. Keeping in mind that Family Day falls right in the middle of minor hockey playoffs. And also that really, in my opinion, Family Day is just a government manufactured holiday that doesn't really mean anything to anybody. But maybe next year at the beginning of the season we could, if the rec department could ask the stakeholders, the minor hockey, the old timers, the skating club, the Summerland steam, everybody who uses the rink, if they'd be wanting to use the ice on Family Day, and even if it's to, I think there might be interest, even if they'd be paying more for ice time to cover the overtime costs. And so that came up quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, Councillor Holmes, I had been asked by a couple of members of the public about that very thing, that it was closed on Family Day. And I did bring it up with the rec center manager, or recreation department manager, and it was an issue of staffing, and as well, staff also like to participate in family activities, so it becomes a bit of a difficult thing to rationalize, but certainly can be looked at for another year. Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have to say that Doug's comment about the public being interested in using the arena is something that I've had several conversations on the sidewalk, plus the evening at the Philosopher's Cafe. There were people that came up to me, so I think it's worth examining. I understand the constraints around it as well. I also attended the Land Development's Readiness and Marketing Workshop. I thought that some of their ideas were very good in terms of how to put a perspective forward, and the province has some opportunities for supports for us. We certainly have that wonderful property, the Wharton Road property, that we would like to market and have someone come in and work with us to have a great development downtown. And we have the old RCMP building, so there's some opportunities for us, and I think there was some good discussion. In the discussion we had as council members and staff there too, there was a realization that there are a good number of industrial or commercial properties that are on private land that we don't have an opportunity to market because it's those persons' lands, and some of them, maybe we could encourage them to get them moving so that we could actually acquire some industry on them. So maybe that's an opportunity that we could work on as well. We did our own strategic plan. I went to the after business gathering, as others did, at the art gallery, and the Crazy Cat supplied desserts. The business after businesses are just a great opportunity, but when you go to them, and even when I first came here, I went to them, you often see the same people, so it would be really encouraging if we could get more of the more unusual chamber members to come out so that we might meet and cross-reference with them as well, because it certainly is a really good opportunity to do that. So I'd like to encourage them, and I know we have representatives from the chamber here tonight. I'm sure that they do that as well. I also then, that same evening, attended the AGM for the Okanagan Trail. That is a connection from Summerland to Penticton. And there's some changes on the executive staff there. But they're very interested in seeing that that project comes to fruition and is actually built and active over the next year. The Cafe Noir, as Doug said, it was a marvelous evening, and I don't know whether we'll get anything published, but the picture of Doug taking a ticket out of a great big aluminum bowl with Enid, one of the pottery people, holding the bowl, it's just hilarious because Doug's so tall and Enid's so tiny. It was just precious. I have to thank the Summerland bakers, they just went a hog wild on the desserts they had. They were just magnificent. And the coffee was wonderful. And everyone got to take a mug home, a personal mug. You got to choose your own mug. And the group that played the jazz, they were just wonderful. It was just a great evening. And sold out or otherwise, try to get to go next year if you can. I think that concludes my
Thank you.
report.
Okay, do we have any questions from the public or the media? John? No questions? Okay, thank you very much. At this point, we'll adjourn the meeting and we'll have to reopen in camera.
What we'll do, Mayor Waterman, is we will, I'll ask council for a resolution to go into in-camera, and then we will adjourn after we're completed the
Yeah,
in-camera
okay.
session.
Okay, can we have a motion, please, to go into camera? Councillor Peak, Councillor Trainer, thank you. All in favor? Go ahead.